What's good? It's your boy Young JOC. You know what it is, man. Young Jock, that is. Look, man, I got to take the time to shout out Black Men Vent 2 podcast out there in Nashville with my guy Jonathan and Leon Davis Jr. What's happening? Hey, look, man, they're the only black father and son podcast in Tennessee that brings on black men to vent about their mental health. And I respect that so much, man. So do yourself a favor. Make sure you check them out wherever you get your podcasts, all right? What up, Jonathan? What up, Leon? Yeah.
We live, man.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah, yep,
man.
Yep.
New week, guys, new episode, man. We're excited
Man.
to be a part of you guys' new week, the Black Men Vent 2 podcast.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get our lingos and our spiels in.
Yeah,
We're the
man.
number one podcast voted by the Nashville scene last year in 2023.
Come on.
We've been heard.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
We've been heard one time in 44 countries.
Yeah.
We have been in 8 magazines up to today's date.
Yeah.
And we are excited to bring to you guys the guest that we have today.
Yeah, man.
A 5-star caliber individual on today's podcast.
Y'all didn't see this one coming. They didn't see this one coming, man.
They did.
They didn't see this one coming, man. They think,
did.
you know, that's what we like to do with this podcast. We like to keep you off balance.
Yes,
so I know you're off
absolutely.
balance now, so let's go with it.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. And as always, we say we are the only black father and son.
Hold on. Underline that word.
Only
There you go.
black father and son podcast in Tennessee, guys.
Yeah, man.
The only ones. Tap in with us, guys.
Please
man.
do.
Mental
Please
Health
do.
Podcast. All we're here to do is aiming to change the narrative behind black men one episode at a time. YouTube, throwing the deuces
What's
up
up?
to our YouTube channel, man. Super excited.
Yeah, man.
We have a great following with our YouTube guys, so make sure you guys like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, help us
Comment on
out. Help us
today's
out.
episode. If you guys don't know who this guy is,
Come on.
we're just gonna shout his name out.
Yeah, man.
He needs no introduction.
Man,
He runs the
none.
city. He needs no introduction.
Yeah.
Presenting to some, introducing to others. My good friend, our good friend,
Yeah, man.
Mayor FREDDIE O'CONNELL. How are you doing?
It is great to be with you all. I've known about this project for a minute, so sometimes when you experience a thing in the community and they get to participate in it yourself, it's just it's a great moment. This is one of those great moments.
Yes,
so thank you all for having me.
Yes, man.
Yes, we're glad to have
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Go ahead. Frank.
Yes. No, we're glad to have you, man, and it's exciting to see somebody come into our space. Like my son said earlier, we've had different caliber people, and our main thing is we always try to be the voice for the voiceless. People that don't have a voice, we try to be the voice for them. So what better person could there be to be the voice for the voiceless than the mayor of the voiceless?
That's it. Well, Mayor, we're going to get right into it, man. We definitely have a couple of gauging questions that we want to get into. And before we even start this podcast, guys, we're not here to be abrasive with questions behind the mayor.
We don't really do politics. Yeah, we really don't do politics.
And throughout his job, we want to know.
How did you all know that?
Right. We just want to know, Mayor, how you doing? So, Mayor, just on this day, talk to our Nashville audience, talk to your city, if you will, our city, behind just who you are, you know, your upbringing, if you will, for those that may not know you. Let's talk about, man, where you come from in Nashville, being a native. And then let's get into candid conversation about your wife, man, your kids, how you guys may have met. Let's just get this conversation going.
Well, I think as we get started here and thinking about you all doing this in a father-son dynamic, one of the most truly one of the most special things I got to do. When you ask how I'm doing, where I come from, a moment last week where these things come together, I got to join my dad, but I mean, both my parents were there, but I went over, our local musicians union does this really great monthly songwriters workshop where songwriters can just come in. They will have a bunch of sort of studio and session musicians sitting around and they can basically work up a song. So my dad was going and he said, "Hey, you ought to come."
Okay.
And so I go over there and join him. And it turns out the song that he is working on is a song that my dad had written years ago, anticipating the day when my brother and I might grow up and kind of leave the house, right? Leave the nest. And so it was a very Music City moment. It was a moment of just kind of reflection on then doing that boomerang where we did, both of us grew up, left the house. My brother moved on beyond the city and has been away ever since. And I came back after going away from college, and but seeing my dad, you know, still practicing that craft of songwriting, you know, and having him invite me into this really special space. He had been workshopping songs and kind of invited me to re-experience this song he had given us each a cassette version of it when we left for college.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Just hearing it again, hearing a bunch of musicians do a treatment of it in this small, intimate space with my mom being there too. It was, that was a great moment.
Yeah,
so
that was.
yeah. And that speaks to that, where I come from piece too. I was lucky to, have all of that, right? Like got to experience Music City. My mom was a teacher, got to see her. And that's, I think for me, what was amazing is both of my parents were craftspeople. Not necessarily directly working with their hands to do something, but for my dad, songwriting was a craft, and it still is a craft. For my mom, for 40 years, teaching was a craft and a calling. And I think my brother and I got to grow up and experience that. And we, on the one hand, we never missed a meal. We had a roof over our heads the whole time. On the other hand, it was also kind of the right there between what working class and middle class is and was in the 70s and 80s. And so seeing life from that perspective too. But they made sure we had access to all this incredible educational opportunity. So my brother and I both went to Aiken Elementary. It's been very gratifying for me to have both of our daughters follow in my footsteps and be second generation Eagles. So Eagles represent. Yeah. And then, it's funny though, because I grew up thinking in that period that I was a Bobcat because my mom taught at Overton High School. But then the year that I was going to start 7th grade, she went over to MBA. And so then my brother and I did our middle and high school over at MBA. And then I went off to Brown University, which was great. I got a computer science degree and kind of accidentally got a music degree while I was there too.
We heard it.
Yeah, we heard about it.
And it's funny because now I am not just the only member of my immediate family, but Whitney and her family, and looking at my brother, looking at a lot of our cousins, like almost everybody else has gone on and gotten these advanced degrees, right? So I'm like the only person who went to undergraduate and kind of stopped, and then actually my mom, my brother, and my dad are really better musicians than I am. So it's like I've got a music degree. They've all gone on and done other things. My dad got his MBA. My mom had her master's in fine arts to teach language. My brother got his PhD. And so, but I think too, my mom grew up with her father telling her the value of education. And she passed that on and paid it forward to us. And I think my brother and I have tried very hard to pass that on to our children.
For sure.
A couple weeks before that, I got to go take our girls up to see him for the first time since COVID.
Wow.
He had been down.
That's great.
But we had plane tickets to get up north right as COVID was dropping. And so we missed kind of a window to see family and friends. He's up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island now. And, but it's great because when we ask our girls what they want to do, they're like, let's go see the cousins.
Yeah.
We can't do better than that. Watching them. I mean, we've got now 13 and just about to be 7 any day now. Our 2 daughters, and they still do very well together as sisters. But when we were at the end of that trip, after a bunch of different, small scale adventures, I said, what was your favorite part? And our now teenage older daughter said, just seeing the cousins.
Man, that's good. That's good.
So
that's so good.
Get to do a lot of that. We had a family reunion a couple summers ago that was great, and the funniest part of that was, we have my generation of cousins on my dad's side of the family. I mean, we almost now all have kids, but we gather together well. My dad's siblings all are still very close, and so our daughters had a great time at this family reunion. And at one point, our older daughter goes, "Dad, why aren't you this funny at home?" It's so funny because she experiences me most of the time in dad mode. And I will say I'm serious about that. Like, we have fun, but she knows where the lines are drawn. She knows what happens when she crosses one. But I think too, it was the first time she had seen a lot of grown-ups kind of cutting up together. You know? And I think it was probably good for her to see that. She had known too, like not only dad mode, but you know, when I was in career mode and before being mayor, serving on the Metro Council. So she has seen me be serious a lot, and she knows I'm going to go out and have fun with them when both of our girls are out. When they go roller skating, I'm going to get out there with them.
You do a little skating?
A little bit.
Oh, no.
I can't dance on
that's
wheels.
what I was waiting to see Freddie, do some moves.
Crossing.
I mean, I can get around the rink okay. But like our older daughter now is also, she's gotten very into rock climbing. I'll go do that. And so, if we go, we try to get out to wave country at least once a summer. And I'll go down the slides.
There you go.
But I think it was good for her to also see, hey, grown-ups just aren't always serious when they're around each other. They have fun, so that was a lot of fun.
So true.
But I think, this will probably fast forward to part of this episode. I'm very lucky to have so many members of our family that we're close to.
Yes.
My brother is absolutely one of my all-time best friends.
Cool.
Watching our kids be this close for this long. I mean, my nephew and my daughter are weeks apart at that, vanguard of now they're both teenagers, which I know is as terrifying to my brother as it is to me to have teenagers under our roof. So but no, it's I think back to the Nashville we grew up in. I think back to where we are now as dads, and I love the opportunities that our girls get to enjoy and experience here in Nashville now and today that we just simply didn't have when we were kids. And then I think about what they tell us and how they're experiencing it. Again, like our this past Thanksgiving, we go around the table. Whitney kind of pushes us to be very explicit about honoring the holiday, and so we go around the table and everybody does a few rounds of what are you thankful for.
Wow.
And our older daughter jumps in, and the first thing she says was our neighborhood and our community. And I was like, okay,
come on.
And so so you see this, you experience this, and in the context of how where our house is, we've got a neighborhood, we've got great neighbors, you've gotten to grow up with some of them. Absolutely. When she turned 10, her how she took care of herself after all of the the stress of COVID, being separated from her friends, was she was like, I want a dog. And so we had that conversation. She said, it's been a hard year. And at that point I knew that we were getting a dog.
Whatever we need to do.
But she walks the dog. We knew we were going to involve her in taking care of it. That it's an exercise and responsibility. And that part has been really good. But I think it also shows her the community. She knows we live in a neighborhood that has sidewalks, which is one of the things that was important. We've got a park around the corner. We've got kids in the neighborhood that she has gotten to know. She loves now, her friends are all old enough to ride bikes. They're doing just what my brother and I used to do when we were growing up. It's just like hop on the bikes, go explore the community.
Absolutely.
And our neighborhood does pretty well getting together socially, in addition to just sort of doing the work of a neighborhood. And then we've got great places like Roasted. We've got great places like Big Al's Deli, just around the corner. We've got the little business district that's really come alive on Buchanan Street, just around the corner from us. And then we've got access to these greenways just around the corner too. So, they see and experience that. And it's been funny too, because a lot of that changed in the 17 years we've been in Salem now. So we're over, up on 6th Avenue North, and have been over there now for 17 years, which is hard to imagine.
Praise God.
And it does not feel like we've been over there.
Time just
half a generation.
Yes.
And until just a couple of years ago, when everything started breaking at the same time, I still felt like our new house. The 15-year mark, though. Everything went out all at once.
Man.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, let me ask you this: since I heard you say that your family are better musicians than you are, well, who's the best DJ?
So it's interesting. They all have very good taste in music. I think we all grew up loving music. In our den, they had a turntable and a whole bookshelf full of vinyl. And so, and so it's funny because my mom was a little more Beatles and my dad was a little more Rolling Stones.
Interesting mix.
Yeah. See, I like both. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So, but he also, so it's funny too, because then for him, as he grew up, he used to listen to a lot of old R&B. And so he got into the old school R&B and then also kind of got into country through Johnny Cash. And so then when they were back here, he was focusing on that craft of songwriting. I don't know that they've built playlists. I don't know they've done a ton of DJing. So maybe I've got a leg up on
that. We were fortunate enough to see you in action. Alex over there spilled the beans a little bit.
I mean, again, I would not compare myself to professionals.
Right.
We've got some incredible. I've been very lucky, and it's funny because if I'm at an event and I'm out, I usually will stop by wherever the DJ is and pay my respects.
There you go.
Right.
We know where the party is coming from. Not everybody drops by the DJ booth.
Right.
I think it's always important to do
Being the mayor, not everybody drops by the
Right.
DJ booth. So I just think that's a different dynamic in general. Like, what the mayor doing at the DJ booth? So no, man, I enjoy just, naturally you talking about, man, the family dynamic.
Oh, I love it.
Because I think not just as a community, but I think just as the world in general, we've gotten away from that, and there's so many different variables. I want to put one to you. When you talk about just the candid experience of your children playing outside,
man,
we missing that. You know what I mean? And
I'm telling you, from the day our older daughter was old enough to walk, like we would go. Whitney was she was in the. So the other thing is, I'll tell you in kind of how we got into the context that I think our daughter is grateful for is Whitney had done her training here just around the corner at Meharry Medical College when she went to go back to med school.
Great.
So now we had to be close to campus, and there's this whole story of we didn't have a car, we bought a house, we saved up for a house by not spending money on a car, but we had to be relatively close to campus. But she then went on to Vanderbilt to do her residency, and those first 2 years were also our first years as new parents. It is very intense, so I will tell you, we spent a lot of time on the playground, just because it's, especially like now, Nashville spring, you catch us in the right few weeks and you're gonna have great weather. Have good sunshine. It's maybe not too hot yet, and so Whitney was at Vanderbilt. We'd get over to Dragon Park, and I wanted her not to just be like hey, all we do is sit on the swings. And so we would go play. I mean, I'd be there for her, but she'd go climb, she'd do the stuff, she'd kind of, test her limits as a toddler on the playground. And I think that whole activity of being outdoors, finding other kids to play with, chasing another around the playground, making up your own games on the spot. I mean, my brother and I, that is what our growing up was. We were down at McCabe Community Center, the old version. A lot of dust on those basketball courts. But now it's like Whitney and our daughter made a list at one point of all the metro parks that have playgrounds. And we spent that period not just during COVID, but beforehand. We'd go out on a weekend, we'd go find the playground we had checked out. And so, and there's different kids in every community, and it's interesting to watch. That's still one of my favorite things about watching them grow up is that period where whoever is there that day is going to be your new best friend. Right. That experience on the playground. And both of them have gotten to really to have that all over the city, which is also one of my favorite things, is that it has let us explore. But it's also given them all these different contexts to play, be outside, all of that.
And I think one of the variables that, we see all the time that negates that type of thing is social media. We talked about it a little bit off the air before you came in, and wanted to know, as the mayor of the city, how do you balance the social media world because I know naturally Alex told us that you're a great tweeter.
So Alex's chagrin,
says you're pretty handy on Twitter, or X, whatever they call it. But how are you able to two-part question? How are you able to keep those boundaries on social media with the children, knowing that they have access to cell phones, even if they don't have their own? They may have access to that. How do you keep that boundary in line while still keeping the mayor side of things and social media also balanced as well? Because you kind of got to cater to both with the position that you're in. So how are you able to kind of balance that?
I think some of this is very connected, because I think if you go back to how we grew up, first as children, then as teenagers, before there was even really internet, right? Video games came along. I mean, look, I logged some hours on Nintendo. There's no doubt about that. But it was also, even then, if you had a console and you want to play with your friends, they had to be there with you. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're sharing controllers. You're all coming over to the same place. And then the best part about that being with you is then you can go do that next thing.
Absolutely.
When you turn it off.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think that has changed too, is that while online connects in some ways, it doesn't actually always produce those offline periods where you are actually together.
Right.
We got a lot of that when we were growing up. We also didn't have to worry about posing and posturing about every last thing in our lives. Right? It's like we didn't have to be thinking about, is this good for Insta?
Yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah. Like, let's get this angle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
And so I think that actually makes it very hard, because all right, so we took our I took, for my daughter's 13th birthday, I took her and a friend to go see Olivia Rodrigo. It was like her big present. And it was fascinating because, like, her friend had a phone, our daughter just has a watch, and she keeps asking, and she went through this dip where she was like, I want a phone. And then she watched her friends get phones. And then she was like, I don't want a phone. They're just like this all the time.
Wow.
And so she kind of took a step back, and the watch lets her call and text us. And I think it helps her feel a little both safer and more independent, which fine, good. But we're at Olivia Rodrigo, and her friend is spending so much of the show trying to capture them. And I'm just like, just enjoy the show. Like when I used to go to concerts, right? And so I think that's hard, because obviously they're thinking, I want to remember this, which I can totally appreciate that. But remember it by being there.
Yes, sir.
And I think for me, being able to grow up before online, before social media, I mean, I think that's a grounding way to then be able to engage in it. I know it's an important tool for communication, but I will tell you, I mean, most of my life is offline. For sure, right?
Yes, sir.
I jump in, and most of the time it's a place to try to get high quality information out into the world, to sometimes have a little fun, and then you just, you try to steer clear of as much of the negative energy that's out there as you can.
We don't take as much time to do the offline part. I think that's what you're saying.
And so we've been pretty serious with both of our girls. Like, look, until COVID, honestly, we didn't really even have a TV, and so they could get a little bit of screen time on a phone and maybe mess with a game if we're waiting somewhere. But then even since COVID, we're pretty much like, you can maybe watch something when you wake up on the weekend, maybe have a little extra time, but we're also going to go do stuff as a family. We're going to go get outside. I mean, this city has so many extraordinary places to get to that are not hard to get to, that are free. We go to our libraries. I mean, both of our girls, except for that period when you couldn't go do it, have been raised on Wishing Chair Productions, the puppet shows at the library. I mean, that is 100% free of charge content that is amazing, right? They've got the puppet trucks go all over the city. We've been to multiple library branches. We've been, again, exploring all those playgrounds. We have all these incredible nature centers in the city, all these incredible greenways. And so we try to keep their exposure level to that high, and that helps. And for me too. I mean, bell already.
Got a BMVT bell break moment.
Love it.
They done broke in right when the mayor was in mid
Love
conversation, but that's okay.
No problem.
What's the question?
I'm listening to you, and you are definitely a well-rounded man, father, brother, family oriented. When do you actually take time to have me time?
So, I mean, I guess this is a part of it too. Is there are quiet hours at the house. We try to let the girls get some time after dinner and getting ready for bed. And I mean, still to this day, though, I'll read with our teenage daughter. But then after that, even while I have done very well on sleep discipline, I will still read. I will still watch stuff. My home away from home for years was the Belcourt Theater. I've been a movie guy for a long time. Still love music. We finally, again, as we're kind of looking to keep things lively, got a turntable in our house during COVID. So I will say my vinyl collection is nowhere near the scale of my parents. But it's I don't have, I guess too, growing up here, there are quiet moments with friends. In fact, it was interesting as we tried to get through COVID, which was maybe the hardest part. It's interesting getting all these, finally got a TV, finally got a turntable, had basically anything you needed kind of at your fingertips in terms of digital content being available to you. You could stream audio, you could stream video, but I found what I missed most during COVID was my people. And so one at a time for months, I'd just have people come over and sit on the porch with me. And so on a day like today, even if it's a little chilly, you just, make a cup of tea, hot chocolate, whatever, sit out there with a friend. And those, again, it's probably fast forward a little bit, but I do get, I feel like, enough time to myself. There have been times when I think I would have pushed us as a family to also carve out some time that's more couple time. Like, Whitney and I used to love to travel together, and it's, there's a difference between a family trip and a vacation.
Yes,
especially
so true.
With younger children.
So true. So true.
And so I think we've kind of been able, especially as the girls got to a point now where they can kind of do their own thing, where we get a little more opportunity to do that. And then even with that, I mean, I think those are the stages, right? There are sometimes when you want to be with the whole family and or friends. There are times when you want to be with your partner. And then there are times when you do just need some me time. And I feel like I get the balance pretty good.
Sounds good. How we looking on time?
Yeah, let's do a break.
Commercial break, guys. We'll take a quick commercial break, man. We got the mayor.
The mayor. Do y'all see this?
Man.
The mayor, man.
He's a DJ
this?
too. We got the mayor. Super excited, man, to have our good friend Mayor Freddie O'Connell that is with us. Y'all
and
know
his
our
staff
platform.
members are here also.
Yeah, man, we got
Some
the whole
staff
family,
members.
man.
Yeah.
The whole family is here. Just again,
I
excited
got
to
a great
be a part.
team, so
That's
I give
it.
a shout out to my team too. That's the other thing. I've been so lucky for almost all of the working life I've had that I have been surrounded by people I also love to work with.
Good. Yeah.
Which is important.
Praise God for that. Yeah.
Guys, let's get into a commercial break, man. Right after that,
Break
we'll
time.
get into the mental health story behind Mayor Freddie O'Connell. This is the Black Men Vent 2 podcast.
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys? What's up, everyone, man? Black Men Vent 2, the only black father and son podcast in the state of Tennessee. Guys, we're excited to have you be a part of our platform on today. As you guys can see, we have an amazing special guest. Our very own Mayor of Nashville, FREDDIE O'CONNELL. What we wanted to do with today's episode is to get away from the political questions and everything that the mayor has to see within his mayoral leadership position. And we wanted to create a conversation behind just genuinely how the mayor is doing on today. I think we as a common people fail to realize the president, the governor, the senators, even the mayor, they are all humans just like we are. They make mistakes just like we do. They have families just like we do. And we were super excited to bring the mayor of Nashville on our show to just come and vent about everything that doesn't involve his everyday activities. We thank you, Mayor Freddie, for being a part of our platform, and we hope and pray that as people hear your story, it better helps them tell theirs. Let's get back into today's episode.
If you have a question, please use the bell.
I'm worried about Maddie jumping in here.
There you go. Please use the bell, Miss Mandy. We don't mind at all. We don't mind at all. Ready?
Yep.
We live.
We live.
Good.
Yeah.
We live, man. We live. We back,
We
guys.
back.
We back,
We back.
man.
We still got it. He didn't go nowhere.
He didn't leave. He didn't leave. You too. He's still here. He didn't leave. We always say in the second half of our episode, if you're just not joining us, something's wrong with you.
Yeah,
we
man.
have a great
Catch up.
guest. He's a
Catch
DJ.
up. Yeah, man.
He's the mayor.
Family man.
Family man.
Yeah.
Husband.
Yeah.
2 kids.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tap in. Black Men Vent 2 podcast, guys. Only Black father and son podcast in Tennessee. We have the mayor, Freddie O'Connell, that is with us on our platform, man. Naturally, we want to know what's going on with the mayor in terms of his mental health story. Get away from the politics, away from all the other things that he may see each and every day, and just get into how he's doing, how he's overcome mental health things, and how he's overcoming mental health things with his position. So, Mayor, let's get right into it, brother. What would you like to vent about today on Black Men Vent 2?
I think if I'm going to vent about something, it may be this. The things that we have endured, including in Nashville, maybe especially in Nashville, just over the past 5 years, right? Rewind to 2020, which was an unimaginable year. It was when the tornado tore through a good chunk of North Nashville, including right by our house. It is days later that COVID dropped here. We went through that summer after the George Floyd debacle, and then ended the year with a Christmas Day bombing. And it didn't get a lot easier through most of COVID in terms of what people were experiencing. So, we already came through the hard. Let's not make it harder now.
Yes, sir.
And so I just you can avoid. I know I've heard some people talk this year a little bit about the idea of toxic positivity. You can stay away from that too, but constant negativity. That's the thing I would vent about. When all you see in the world ahead of you is bad. I mean, we have. I'll just say it this way: starting from the closest place to you at home. If there is somebody there that makes you happy, and if not, maybe next door, you go into the office. I mean, it may be the case that you have nobody in your life that brings you joy. But one of my favorite things is we've got a member of our team in the mayor's office who will be optimistic. She'll say, at some point, if you encounter her just in the hall, I hope something brought you joy today. That's the hopeful part. But then she'll turn it around if you catch her later and say, what brought you joy today? And I think it is good to be able to reflect on that, because I mean, you can hop online. You'll find a hater somewhere.
For sure.
Without a doubt.
That's coming from the mayor.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
And so I don't have time for that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, look, we do work. All of this. If you are in a decision-making role, you are sorting out disagreements.
Absolutely.
And that's a point of tension no matter what. And I get it; those are hard. But it doesn't always, like, even there in disagreements, it doesn't have to be an exercise in hatefulness every single day.
Thank you.
Everything you see is bad, and that there must be something behind it. I mean, what I learned maybe the most is it's like from COVID, people actually do want to be with one another.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, to gather, that's supposed to be a process of fellowship. And we can agitate and we can work for better. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to be around people who all they've got is negative.
Absolutely.
Yes, Lord.
Absolutely.
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah. Well, since we're talking about mental health, and I'm going to kind of keep it on those lines, and I don't know if this is a part of your agenda, but I know it is a part of your agenda. I just wanted to know, what do you think about it? Of course, mental health used to be like a taboo type subject, but now it's a popular, very popular subject, and people are jumping all over it. So I just wanted to know your thoughts as far as how do we address it in our school system for the middle-aged kids and the teenagers who are dealing with this social media outbursts and trying to live up to the things that they see on social media. How do we address that as far as our school system with, funding or maybe more people? How do we address that situation? Because it seems as though it's getting to be bigger than what we can handle. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to think of who this was. It was just in the past few weeks. Somebody was sharing with me the outlook that maybe you shouldn't even think about being on social media until you are done with high school. Maybe on to college or maybe into the workforce, right? And I will tell you, I mean, our daughter is 13. She does not yet have a phone. If she gets a phone, she will not have social media for a while. So I think about it from the perspective of a parent, what my expectations are. But I do think, she's lucky too, where at her middle school, the principal is very serious about this. They drop everybody's phones and sleeves at the start of the day.
Good.
Yeah, so they're. I mean, and I think again that setting the expectation of leadership is a big deal. When I am leading meetings, again, I try to lead by example. I do not have my phone visible. I do not check my phone. If I'm in the meeting, the reason the meeting exists is because that is supposed to be what is in front of us. If I'm at a party, if I'm celebrating a friend's birthday, I don't need to be on my phone. And so I think some of it just comes from we maybe didn't get to any kind of norms about this as, not rules, but just how we do this as at communities at different level, whether it's in a school community, whether it's as a city, whether it's in a neighborhood, whether it's a group of friends, more informal. We didn't get all the way there, but I feel like as a city, that's the other thing is when you get out and get to experience as much of the city, I found Nashville was ready to hope again and to think positively about the future. And that matters so much. So we lean into that every day too. Yes. And some of that is making sure self-care is a real thing. Yes. I do think that matters. I am personally very glad that we maybe have moved beyond this idea that seeking any kind of, even to think about mental health as a practice, as something somebody else may want to help you with. It's not just that you may go see a doctor for an annual checkup, but that however you do it, if it's a practice of self-care, if it's going to whatever kind of therapy or even a coach, because I know some people that have been through coaching processes that are incredibly helpful. Or just even like those simple things of what I did on my porch, where it's just like, great. Every weekend I'm going to sit down with a friend and just, catch up. I had a friend recently just describe how one of the things he enjoys is hanging out. And that kind of gets back to the idea that it is very important to know for yourself what keeps you balanced, grounded, able to access happiness. And that is ultimately all in service to mental health. So we take it seriously in our office. I mean, our team meetings usually start with a full team check-in.
Yeah, man.
And,
Yes.
So we
Yes.
do that weekly, just to see where everybody is. And I think it helps us know one another as a team, but also gives a little bit of space for, okay, I mean, some people have shared some things that have been a little heavier in their lives, and it's important to be able to not, like, surfacing that is so much better than keeping all of that below the surface.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, and then you get into I knew after the Covenant shooting last year, which was just absolutely devastating, because the city, we may have had gun violence, we may have had gun violence impact young people. We had never been through the experience, though, where somebody came into an environment and said to themselves, today I'm going to try to kill children. And so that is very traumatic, and it made me think a lot about the days, weeks, months after a trauma like that. And so we have a couple things. We've got the Family Intervention Program. There's a collaboration between the police, but also the Office of Family Safety. They do a great job with anyone who's a victim of crime. But then our Metro Public Health Department has now scaled up their clinical approach to behavioral health, which is also a big deal. Then Metro Schools used a lot of our one-time COVID relief money from the federal government to dramatically scale up social and emotional learning opportunities within schools. So there are many good things happening. I think our job, our challenge, our charge in some ways is to make sure that they continue if there's one-time opportunities.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, it's how do you make that an all-time opportunity?
Yes, sir.
And so we're looking through that. That's one of the challenges of this year's budget, but we are very well aware of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I think, and I'm gonna say kudos to what you're doing, because my wife just had an experience about that the other day, where she said that she watched a young man that was going through a mental health episode, and the police came. Now, this is different from years back, because we had another situation where the police were not equipped to handle people like that. And the situation did not turn out like this one. But pushing forward, she said she saw a young man that was having an episode, her and my son. And they pulled over because they were just concerned, because my son knows the guy. And the guy was having an episode, but my son knows the guy. He knows the guy goes through these things. But what she said happened was this. The police came, and then they waited for another police to come, and then it was a mental health person that got out and was able to address that young man. I said, man, I'm thankful for that, because that thing used to happen 2 years ago. I know, but now it's happening, and thank God for that.
Important. And I'm glad you brought this up, because that's another piece of it where public safety and mental health also intersect. And so here in Nashville, 2 programs are off the ground. One of them is about to be citywide. One of them is in pilot, and we are hoping to be able to expand it. Partners in Care is the thing you just described, where law enforcement will frequently now respond to a situation, and our dispatch process, their emergency communications, has gotten trained up on this. If they think someone is in mental health crisis, which they know, I mean, you can generally distinguish between that and somebody trying to commit a crime.
Right.
Partners in Care is this program that sends a mental health professional along with law enforcement.
Yes.
Now, if you know for certain that somebody is just in crisis, there is a newer program called REACH.
Okay.
And that can send effectively just the mental health provider without necessarily even somebody with a weapon. So you ensure that there is even a lower risk of escalation, lower risk of confrontation, that mental health provider can be there to de-escalate. So we have Partners in Care and REACH both active in that public safety context, and that has been a big deal. And so far, the data on what Partners in Care has accomplished means that you don't wind up arresting your way through the mental health episode. You get somebody in treatment who doesn't then complicate their record further. Thank you. That is a better outcome.
Oh man, so much better. So much better.
Because then you also get to keep your safety resources focused on crime resolution, crime prevention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great program. Great programs. Great programs.
I want to touch on Mayor real quick as we getting ready to wrap up. How do you handle your general depression moments, anxiety moments, grief, while still naturally being able to uphold the position that you have? I'm sure there's been some times where you stood in a crowd of 10 or a crowd of 300, and you probably just maybe lost a family member, maybe lost a friend, lost a loved one, or just something dealing with grief. How do you deal with those mental health stigmas while still trying to make sure that the city is what it needs to be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this may be the hardest question of all to answer. I feel like in thinking about it, even while we've been sitting here today, when I was in college, it was sort of maybe the first time in my life that I experienced that sensation of being chronically overwhelmed, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you got this class over here and they are literally asking you to read an entire book a week. And over here, you've got a project every quarter and it's got milestones. Then over here, there may be a team thing where you're accountable to something. And it was just like, I can't. Right? Mm-hmm. Like it was that first time that maybe I had realized, wait, I am being asked to do more than it is literally possible for me to do. Mm-hmm. And so it forced me to realize that, if each of us is lucky enough to wake up that next day, then it's another day. Absolutely. And you do the stuff that you can do today. Mm-hmm. And then anything else can wait till tomorrow. And that is just how it is going to be. So I think somehow in college, I still remember one of my friends was like, "How are you not stressed out?" And I was just like, "Because I'm going to go to bed tonight." And that's like, I might not get as good a grade as I thought I was before I saw all of it out there in front of me, but I'm also very fortunate that I've got, like, I knew I had, parents back home. I knew I had, good friends around me. Like I wasn't isolated. So that's a little bit of that. And I definitely, I would say, I think it's very important in all of that concept to, I know I've got friends who are more introverted than I am, but, isolation can be very hard for mental health. I definitely, whatever encouragement there is for people not to be there, I think that also helps me. It's like, even as much as I value my me time, I put a lot of value on me time where there is somebody that I trust. I value their companionship, fellowship, spending time with them and be there. But I think years ago, I managed to be able to break up any of those stresses that might feel like they're all pushing down on you in one moment. And it's just like, okay, you know what? There'll be a little of this every day, but day by day, where your goal is. You know that on the other side of an exam, you're going to pass or you're going to fail, and then you're going to recover from that. On the other side of a council meeting, there's going to be a vote. You're going to vote up or down. Right?
He's like, it is what it is.
And you're going to make a decision, and you're going to use your best judgment. But I think, the grief part is hard because it unexpectedly folded into even the moment of the election for us, because Whitney lost her dad in the space between the general election and the runoff election and the mayor's race. And so I wound up speaking to it just a little bit on election night. And I think there you could hold the space for family. There is a little bit of a public element to it because we have chosen to go through all this as a team, the campaign that got us to that moment, as the supporters who were there with us. And again, I think you can invite people into just a little bit of that grief, so you're not carrying it all by yourself without making a big show of it. And I think that's the balance you try to strike. I do think the hardest moments we have dealt with as a city so far have been those moments that disaster becomes grief. In December, we had, even knowing just a few years prior in March of 2020, we had deadly tornadoes. Well, we did them again this December, where unfortunately we did have some Nashvillians killed by the severe weather. And then, this poor young woman who was a Belmont student who got shot and killed. We have gun violence. We have this poor young man from Missouri who had gone missing, and then they recovered him in the river. And then, of course, most recently, this situation at Roasted that was absolutely devastating in so many different ways. And we have had to, pause for that because death is incredibly. It's disruptive. It is emotionally devastating. Even in those moments, with Whitney's father, it was, there's a little bit of maybe relief and release in that he went into hospice. And so we knew, and she and her sister, and to a lesser extent, I could all be there to say goodbye. Not everybody gets that opportunity.
That's so true. Yes, that's so true.
Those are even more difficult moments, I think, when you are caught by just the shock and surprise and trauma of somebody unexpectedly dying. I will say, I think that may be the biggest change of all from any period in my life prior to this, even in Metro Council, where I felt very obligated to the voters and residents of District 19. There's just a way in this job where you carry a little bit more of the weight of the world in every step. And so, again, you have to find those moments of lightness. You have to, I'm very, very cognizant of self-care for myself. And, my worst moments are when there is a little pocket and buildup of stress, and maybe I snap at one of my daughters in a moment where she's not expecting. Yes, sir. That is tough. But yeah, the good news, I guess, overall is, even in recognizing that those are flaws and that I have moments I should do better in, you pause, you take stock, you go get better, and then you also make sure that you show that love and appreciation.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, let's take a quick.
The mayor said he got to go. His man said he got to go. So get what? We got to go.
Before we wrap up, man, it's been great, Mayor Freddie, man, just to have you on and be a part of our platform. Just real quick, man, as if anybody needs to know this, but your social media handles, where can anybody find you to find more information about the transit plan that we're doing? I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, just at Freddie O'Connell. Instagram and Facebook, it's Freddie for Nashville. You can go find out the biggest projects we're working on. The Transportation Improvement Program is just nashville.gov/transit. The East Bank, which the Metro Council just took the next step in helping us advance last night. That is nashville.gov/eastbank, all one word. So go just check us out there. You can send a note at any time to mayor@nashville.gov.
All right.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Hey, man.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Needed, man.
Thank
Mayor
you, Mr.
Freddie
Mayor.
O'Connell is with us, and now he's leaving because
Freddie is Mr. Freddie, the mayor, is leaving the building.
He's leaving the building. It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. You can do what you can, and you can't what you can.
Nashville until next week is a wrap. Black man, don't get trapped.
What's up, guys? What's up? Peace to the city and peace to the planet. You're listening to the baddest podcast in Nashville, the only podcast that gives you a radio show feeling with a podcast undertone. We are Black Men Vent 2, and we are proud to announce, as you can see, that we have brand ambassadors that are a part of our movement. Yes, guys, Black Men Vent 2 has 5 women and 5 men who have joined us and believe in us just as much as we believe in ourselves. Their job is to make sure that they carry the mission and carry the message of doing what we're trying to do in our city of Nashville, and that is make uncomfortable conversations comfortable, aiming to change the narrative of Black men one episode at a time. We are super excited to introduce to you guys the brand ambassadors of Black Men Vent 2. Stay tuned going into the new year because we got big things planned with our new family. Thank you.